Welcome back to JKLive. What an interesting conversation we're having about GMOs. We're trying to demystify it. Professor Richard Odwor is here trying to demystify it. Dr. Roy Mugiira is here trying to demystify. Mheshimiwa Kipruto Kirwa also trying to demystify and mine as well. And joining us on Zoom, Dr. Bernard Moya. It's all about demystifying, and you go first. First of all, is there pressure from multinational? We'll talk about before the break. You think there's pressure from the West for Kenya to adopt GMOs? Yes, we believe so, because who is going to sell this seed? Who is patenting the seed? Yes, we are told it's royalty-free, but who will be selling the seed? And it's interesting, the multinational that's selling the seed is selling the herbicide, is selling the pesticides, and these are some key concerns that we have. But let me take you to the issue of hunger or food insecurity. The US was the first country in the world to commercialize GMOs, 1996. South Africa came in next and other countries. No, Europe, not much. But there are still many people who go hungry in the US, in South Africa every night. So food, access to food or food security is an issue of accessibility, affordability, and being able to get it in the right way. What you choose what you want. And so when we talk about GM, and let me say, the GM varieties is insect resistant, herbicide tolerant, or a stacked gene. South Africa have refused and rejected the application for the stacked genes because when these GMOs are developed, the independent scientists in the European Union have questioned. They don't really understand how the genes interplay in there. And let me give you an example. When you look at a child who has Down syndrome, it's only one chromosome that goes wrong, one. And so why are we playing Russian roulette with our lives? Kenya has always had a precautionary principle. And that's why when Professor Kiumbu Thairo did his work, and that informed the decision in 2012 to ban the GMOs, he raised key concerns because issues of biodiversity, issues of socioeconomic, and even health-wise. And so for us, we still remain and say that this is not something that we want, and we urge our government to reverse this because we do not want GMOs in Kenya. Let us get another moratorium and look at the technology. It is not right. It's not right at all. And Mheshimiwa, you're saying in South Africa, they feed the yellow maize to
livestock.
Animal feed.
Animal feed. Yeah. And the other maize to the rest of us. But that's not really my source of concern. I want our experts to explain to us, what do you do with the stock that is left after the caterpillar has been killed using BT? Because the BT means you are generating a certain amount of poison that when the caterpillar consumes, gets into its system and is going to die. And that BT has some residual presence in the stock that you are leaving, whether it is maize, whether it is cotton. And when it is consumed by livestock, it creates residual critical mass that will also kill livestock. It happened in India. So we want them to demystify that. Now, the question they have not given us, the answer they have not given us is these trials, are they done to obviate possibility of harm to human beings? That is another question that they ought to answer. The third issue, can we build a requisite capacity as Kenyans so that if we are producing GMO seeds and GMO control measures like herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, that we will say we are in charge of our own destiny. Because food security is sovereignty of a nation.
Before the scientists coming in, Jeff, give me a minute.
Go on.
Professor Odwor has talked about BT, and he says it's naturally occurring. True. It's naturally occurring. If you go for biopesticides, you get those that have that natural BT. But this one in the laboratory is synthetic. It does not die easily. The one in the soil quickly dies off, even when you eat it. But this one that has been genetically modified, that doesn't.
Prof, you're shaking your head again.
Yes, because it's and I'm struggling now to actually even debate. Because when you say that the one that is in the lab is not dying, actually death is when it is an organism. We are talking about a section of the DNA. DNA is not breathing. DNA doesn't breathe. That is why we eat DNAs from all sources of beef. You eat beef. When you eat beef, you eat it with its DNA, and you don't grow horns, which cows have. Why? Because if that was the case, Jeff, you walk in a plantation and you come out green because you are interacting with the DNA. This is not simplistic like we are trying to say it here. DNA, for it to integrate, because how long have we been growing beans and maize and we've never seen beans becoming maize? And they both interact with the DNA. This is not as simple as we think it is. The reality is that for you to move a gene of interest, there must be specificity and knowledge of that DNA. And because it is sequenced, so you pick just the right section, when you send it into the other genome, and there is a mechanism we do it. There is something else we call agrobacterium tumefaciens, and I don't want to use those terms. I'm just trying to say that naturally, that bacteria that we are using for transformation exists naturally. Actually, it sends its DNA to other plants just to send the DNA and integrates very nicely in the genome. Then it uses it to cause crown gall, which is a natural process. Mutation happens naturally. Even if we don't do it, it will still happen. It just takes longer. Now, what we are doing...
Go on, Prof. They say the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yes.
Have you eaten GMO? Have you?
Wow. Jeff, and that is what I am promising the public, if I'm allowed, is that next week, if they allow, I will pick the GMO products, test it so that they see that they confirm it's GMO, and then cook ugali with it, and if you are able to supply fish, I will enjoy it in the full glare of the media. Because I studied, part of my studies was in the University of Cape Town in South Africa, which accepted this DNA, this GMO thing in 1998. I was in the US with Novartis for years. I was in the UK. And the UK, and I want just to demystify, there's this mad discussion around EU, Europe is against. Spain, where is Spain? Is it in EU?
Yes.
It grows, is the leading producer of GM. It cultivates it.
For animal feed?
Not necessarily for animal. You know, when we say animal feed, I wonder, when it is in animal, did the DNA die? Because who eats these animals? So is there a statement that when a cow eats the GM product, then when it's now dead, or when you are, slaughtering it, the DNA that was put in it died? So where did that DNA go to? Then we come conveniently and say it's for animal feed. It's not for animal feed. What it is that they don't have the constraints that we have in terms of food. They have surplus. We must choose, and above all, we are going to label them, just like these parts of the world. What I'm telling the country is that, and Africans must think about this very seriously, and now here I'm talking as a scholar, we have a problem as Africans to over-debate technologies. Jeff, the fact that a knife has been used to stab and kill somebody somewhere else does not nullify the utility of a knife. All you need to do is to make good laws that if you use a knife not for cutting a sukuma wiki and stab somebody else, we take you to jail. That is what we are also saying, that this technology is good. If you come back with a technology that NBA has not approved, we will not allow it. What we need to know is that this country accepted GMO right from 2006 when they started the discussion around biosafety, and 2009 Biosafety Act that was ratified and we were put into action that established the NBA in 2010. The government and any country cannot have a regulatory agency for something they don't believe in. That is why we don't have cocaine regulatory authority, because it is banned. If you're found with it, you go to jail. When we have National Biosafety Authority, they are regulating, meaning we accept this is a good technology, but make sure that it is employed in the right manner that is beneficial to the people. My final word on this one, Jeff, is this. In the Green Revolution, Africa never benefited. Because when the mechanization was coming, fertilizers and everything, we were still debating. The moment Africans got the wind of tractors, fertilizers, there was a new thing, carbon credit. Now we are watching the carbon. How much of the carbon have you emitted when you are growing this particular food? Now it is a requirement that must be tested before you export your stuff. Listen to that. We lost out on it. GMO started in 1998. We have debated for 25 years. There's no any longer clinical trial that the doctor was talking about that goes beyond 25 years. We should be seeing people dropping dead because they have been eating GMO. What I'm trying to say is, as we are debating here, Jeff, we are no longer doing the transgenics that we are talking about here. We have moved in our own lab. Right now, we are doing something else called genome editing. So you won't get a gene from all these sources that you people are talking about. We look at the silent part of your genes and realize that why are you more comfortable and stronger than myself? And then we realize, what could it be that you're expressing more than I do? We are both human beings. So we are not picking this because we are tired of this thinking, people thinking that we are picking genes from snakes, putting in food. No, the technology has moved and we are not benefiting yet. So we will be chasing technology, and it is really sad. And sometimes I want people who are sometimes over-debating technology to know that probably it is a trick that we keep debating as they generate and develop, and then we keep enjoying as a market destination. It is so sad.
Dr. Roy, are we going to make sure the labeling, like Professor said, the labeling?
Yes, we published the labeling regulations.
Yes.
In 2011.
Okay.
I mean, 2012.
And it's going to be clearly marked GMO when the time comes.
We have even designed a label for that. Only that, yes. Only that we didn't apply this because shortly after publishing the guidelines or the regulations, the ban. So who you're asking? Something?
Okay, yeah. Who is to stop someone from Kirinyaga Road or somewhere? Or correct.
And that
label.
No, to even monitor.
To monitor.
Mm.
We do not work alone, Jeff, and this must be understood. The Biosafety Act identifies 8 other government regulatory agencies. And what gives me comfort with the statement that came from Cabinet is a statement of confidence in our national institutions. And I think that is what has been questioned over the time, including by Professor Dhairo in his report, which we can highlight a little later. When we are carrying out the approval and the monitoring and the surveillance, the Act provides 8 other regulatory agencies. I can name them for benefit to see which corners they look at. We work with KEFIS on matters plant, the Kenya Plant Health. We work with NEMA, matters environment. We work with DVS, Directorate of Veterinary Services, matters animal, Directorate of Public Health, Human Health, and KEBS on standards, KIPI, to address issues of IP, which has been touched in our discussion tonight, and KWS, if we are touching on something that is within the protected category under the Ramsar Convention. And also we work with PCPB, the Pesticide Control Products Board. Now, our activities out there for surveillance and monitoring, we move with all these agencies. We have been doing this particularly because of the ban. We go around the country picking stuff from shelves and testing them. And we haven't found any GMO in the country that has come in during the period of the ban. We will continue to do that to ensure that that which comes in or that which is produced here is placed on the market in accordance with our regulations.
Are you guaranteeing Kenyans that?
Sure.
The case of Aromat?
Yes, that was found
found in the shelves
in 2012.
Right.
And the issues were handled, and it was pulled out of the shelves. And there was a court case that arose from that. Of course, the owners went to court, and I think the matter was resolved. I don't know how. I wasn't with the authority then, but it was resolved. That is the only incident where we found material on the shelves that was GMO.
As far back as 2008, as a coalition, the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya, we did some random sampling. We bought sausages and baby food from the supermarket, which had soya products, and we bought maize seed from Eldoret, which was marked a product of South Africa. We did local testing. They looked suspicious. When we exported them to Germany and did further analysis, we found them to be contaminated. And we shared this with the NBA. And so it's an issue. How is testing? We need to improve even on our local surveillance. Look at the issue of the toxic pesticides. When you look at the KEFIS does regular monitoring. But you still have cases where sukuma wiki and tomatoes have been found to have high MRL levels. Kenya is a net exporter of baby corn. What will happen to our export market?
So you said you did that analysis in 2008?
2008.
And shared NBA was not in existence then.
You were then a committee. You remember? We have come from the National Biosafety Committee.
Yeah.
to the NBA. We have
Okay,
worked
okay.
with you from when you were in the committee.
Yes, when it was a National Biosafety
Before it
Committee.
became NBA.
All right, there's a lot of questions on the magic wall, folks. Let's see if we could answer them, because a lot of curiosity out there. And I'm glad we're having this conversation. I think it's very important, folks. Tweets coming in so thick and fast. Dysphoria KE says, what are the future impact of GMOs? Can GMOs cause exposure to allergens? Prof?
Is it Prof or is it me?
Okay.
This is one of the things that we check.
Go on.
That we align the protein that is produced by the GM product with known allergens to dispel the possibility that it belongs to that category. So before any move is made, we first deal with allergenicity and toxicity.
Very good.
Yes.
Winnie Rugut is asking, kindly ask your panel to comment on the influence of foreign nations on the positive or negative view of GMO perception in Kenya. We have strong lobby groups pushing for either side of the GMO debate. How can Kenyans choose their own path? Mheshimiwa, is there pressure?
Well, I suspect there is, because the two
both sides
have not been able to answer the questions I raised. Why don't we build our own requisite capacity to produce seed that is going to be grown in Kenya? That is a question that they ought to answer. How do we deal with the issues that arose in India, where the stock that was consumed by livestock had residual poison from the previous BT?
I wanted to a quick follow-up on that, Jeff.
Go on.
What is the plausibility of maize stock that has been genetically modified for BT? I mean, for pest resistance, really kill an animal? I would want to understand the theoretical framework within which that can really happen.
I explained at the beginning of time that the BT was meant to kill the caterpillar.
Yes.
But it accumulated sufficient amount of that poison that it killed in the rumen of the animal. It acted the way it was going to be.
We also saw that in Burkina Faso. We need to base. We went and visited the farmers, and the farmers told us when our animals fed on the stock, some of them died. So we did not raise that much because it's something that needs to be studied. But the farmers were claiming the stock, the BT cotton stock.
Yes,
a bit of science.
Yes,
really.
No. But answer basically.
Yes, I'm asking. That's what I want to ask.
Requisite capacity to produce seed, or are you going to get from Monsanto?
I said this country for the last, from 2005, we have been doing research on GMO locally. And this is here. Even today, the citizen guys were in our lab at Kenyatta University. There are GMs in this country. And that was ongoing even during the ban. I must clarify that the ban never stopped GM research. And for over those 10 years, we have been funded by National Research Fund to do actual research because of one of the requirements by the Thairu's requirement that we can do more research that are local. So that was implemented by us getting consistent funding for the last, from 2012 to now.
Who's funding?
National Research Fund is a government agency.
There is a lot of money coming from
No.
Even you go to some of their websites, it's clear.
Listen, we can produce checks.
These are matters. You can
produce checks that we wrote as National Research Fund from the Ministry of Education to his team to develop the lab and to do the work that they are doing. Really, Jeff, I want also to point on the commitment of the current government to realize the 2% of GDP allocation to research so that we can drive our own agenda. I agree that quite a bit of it is funded by partners, but the example that he has given as one of the steps to do it ourselves. We have funded the Kenyatta University lab that is doing
But
this.
you agree there are partners from outside.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, Jeff. Even this very, very government borrows from out there.
But they
you know, there
take
must
the
be
agenda.
mechanisms. We must accept that even the good research, let's say not, you know, this partner thing is not a preserve of only GMO. We still have the same partners actually funding medical. So why does it only become bad when those partners are also, funding? No, it doesn't matter about the agenda. What we need to discuss, Jeff, is in terms of safety. And when I find them hovering around without really talking around this safety very seriously, I am concerned. I need this country because I also live here. I have family here. And therefore, it is important that scientists here, and very soon, this country must rely on us to verify that what kind of GMO is even in
That ugali you were talking about earlier, Prof.
Precisely.
Would you feed your family with that?
For a whole year. For a whole
Let
year.
me tell you, Jeff,
2 years.
you know, this family have been moving around with it.
Oh, sorry.
Eating all these things. They have been moving around with it, eating all these things. You know, when people talk about GMO, it sounds as if it is chemical. It is not. When I take gene from beans that makes protein and put in maize, we naturally eat beans. It didn't change because I put it on maize. That is what we are talking about, GMO. It is not about chemical.
There was a case in Asia where we had the golden rice. They developed a GM rice, which was called golden rice, with vitamin C.
Vitamin A.
No, vitamin A.
Sorry, vitamin A. Yes, Professor, give me some space.
Thank you.
Vitamin A. And they found that children had to be given like 4 kilos of that rice per day to get the same amount of vitamin A you can get from 1 carrot. What was the use? What was the use?
Okay, let's go on. Taros Vincent says, does the university lab, Prof, that's you,
Yep.
have the capacity to produce viable products for the entire country?
You see, it's not about the lab. The lab produces a seed. After that, it leaves our hand. It gets to the NBA to verify that it works well. It goes through the confined field trial. It goes through the national performance trial. After that, it is released. There is a lot more that happens. That is not the work of a scientist from the lab. A scientist makes the seed, subjects it to the processes, including KEFIS dealing with it, and after that it goes into the food production system and seed production system. If it is Calro, to bulk it, and it goes to other organizations. Our work stops at making the good seed and it be verified that it has been done above board and it is safe. After that, other things come in and they pick it up. We only need one seed and we bulk it to millions.
Okay. Farid Abdul Kadir says, can you replant seeds harvested from GMOs?
I will answer that, Jeff.
Okay.
No.
Jeff, let me answer that
Go
because
on.
it is a problem.
Yes.
People think that when you plant GM, it will not germinate because of some imaginary gene used to be called terminator gene. You know, it
was never commercialized.
It was never commercialized.
Yeah.
So that discussion
Yes.
that they are talking about, that if it is planted, it will not germinate because our indigenous seeds, when you plant them, they germinate again. GMO will germinate again. The only problem that will happen is the same thing that happens even with hybrids. If you buy hybrids and you harvest out of it, you can't plant the same. It will germinate, but Mheshimiwa here will tell you the yield will be very pathetic. That's the same thing we are talking about. The GM actually has the gene that you want. So the whole thing about replanting and killing the cycle is not there. And if it is there, I will rally the entire country against that kind of technology.
Mheshimiwa, you agree?
Well, yes, I agree. I agree in terms of comparing the two, that inferior whatever lines will come along down the road. But the issue that they need to ask, do they have the requisite capacity to produce seed so that we don't rely on the foreigners? Because when you are saying you are unbanning importation of GM products, you are telling us even Monsanto on Monday will be able to bring their seed here. And therefore our local capacity will be stifled because we do not have the same cutting edge in terms of resources to produce and compete on the same footing.
Yeah. Dr. Roy,
that's the answer.
do we have the capacity? That's what Mheshimiwa was asking. Do we have it?
We do. We do the capacity to produce seed. I said earlier, the 3 varieties that have been identified for BT maize actually belong to Caro. And Caro has the leeway to partner with whomsoever they wish to mass produce.
Often, the multinationals. Look at BT cotton.
Go on.
When BT cotton was introduced, the seed came from Mexico. Monsanto in India and was brought in. This season, farmers have been saying we don't have the seed because they're not bringing the seed. So the farmers were being given seed, being given the fertilizer, and being given the pesticides, a form of subsidy. Now, the cow has, the chicken has come home to roost. They don't have access to that, and so they're saying, what do we do? What do we do?
Jeff, we are running away from the truth here. When it comes to the discussion around who now supplying the seed, that is not technology. That's not now GMO. We have now moved into the logistics. And let me explain.
But it's about socio-economic.
Let me explain now. That is correct. All I am saying is, if their fear is that who is now running with this GM technology or who is owning the seed, that is a discussion that this government, if we have overwhelmed the capacity that is here and wants to import, the government has the capacity really to control what comes into this country. And if it is a discussion that needs to be opened by whoever is bringing it in, that is a discussion that is not GMO. It's now about how are we benefiting in this technology. Jeff, vehicles that we are driving in this country are all from Japan. Yeah. We don't make them. And all we need to do is that how are we benefiting? That is a different discussion from the technology itself.
You see, Jeff, and I think Professor here is being dishonest. We don't manufacture vehicles in Kenya. What we are saying is that we have robust seed industry in Kenya that is doing well so far. Now we are bringing competition from external elements, and we are saying we are going to handle that problem at that particular time. We are supposed to discuss this issue holistically. We are not just supposed to talk about just research. It is holistically. That's why I was saying, what is the landscape or maize fields in future, GMO and non-GMO, local and international.
But is the competition already there, even with the conventional? Is Monsanto selling seed in Kenya, or whoever, the multinationals, are they selling seeds in Kenya?
They're selling hybrids.
They are.
Yeah.
They are
So,
selling hybrids, and they are competing with us favorably because we already got the requisite capacity. We've been doing research since 1938 on maize.
So what will change?
What will change is that we may not invest, and that's what we want to get from you. You cannot just come here and you say you are dealing only with biosafety. It has to be the totality of the chain.
And, or do we move on before okay.
But good point. Ola Lekam is saying, Japan has the highest life expectancy in the world, and its government has allowed the use of GMOs. In Kenya, a significant population is facing severe acute malnutrition. If GMOs will help fix food shortage, then it is time.
It was time a while ago.
And you disagree?
No. I disagree. Some years back, the former president of Zambia, Levi Mwanawasa, Zambia was facing a food shortage. And then I was working there, I can tell you. And we raised a lot of questions about GMOs. There was push to bring GMO food. And he was being asked, will you let the Zambians die of hunger? What will you do? And he made a very Solomonic decision. He said, I'm going to allow a short period, but bring it milled. But I'm not going to allow GMOs. If this is only food available, we can bring. The reason the ban has been lifted, Jeff, is that people are ready to import want to bring this GMO maize. This GMO maize is produced in, for example, the US or South Africa using a lot of subsidies. So the maize will come in cheaper. They will not compete with
that is not true. That is really not true, Jeff.
No?
That is not true. And it isn't right really to issue a statement that is not correct regarding the South African situation on when the whole world is watching. Yeah.
Okay, good point. Tony Manyara Mugiira, I don't know if he's related to you, Dr. Mugiira.
That's my namesake.
He says desperate moves call for desperate actions. However, let this whole issue about GMO not be politicized.
That's the point.
Let the relevant authorities advise accordingly and give the right directive. Kenya is bigger than anybody else. The lives of Kenyans matter.
True.
Let anyone who intends to interact with this technology go to our website, fill in the form according to our regulations, bring it on. We will check the safety, and we shall see what is allowable and what cannot be allowed.
What is your website? Is it
Biosafety Kenya? www.biosafety.
biosafetykenya.co.ke.
Yes.
I'll find it there.
Jeff, they just don't know how many of those GMO projects these guys have actually rejected. You know, that's what he's not telling the public as well. That there are so many applications that come, and they have the capacity to verify and check and get to know. We don't even need. And why was it rejected?
Socioeconomics.
Issues.
So,
and it's not even a food product.
When it matters, they reject it.
NBA has rejected. True.
And that tells you that tuko kwa
the
gate,
only one.
Jeff, na tunalinda.
I tell you.
But the only one rejected is the gypsophila.
On socioeconomics, remember, Jeff, we have raised socioeconomics issues.
Correct.
We don't ignore, because socioeconomics is important, like Mheshimiwa has put it quite correctly. Now, we put that aside because it is a flower, and we were concerned that if we make it GM, like we said, Europe is not 100% receptive to GM. Therefore, it could affect our market on flowers. By the way, this has come back on the flip side.
What of baby corn now with GM maize? We export baby corn. Isn't there a risk of contamination? That is the socioeconomics that I said was considered. Now, on the flip side, in fact, we have been asked by the Caro, for example, can we then produce it in confinement here? Because it is a blue gypsophila. Gypsophila, Jeff, is the flower that is used to fill in a bouquet. You have the roses, and those are the things that look white. Traditionally, it is white. They made a purple one, which is very, very attractive. But then it is GM. And therefore, when it came for our consideration, the board then said no. The applicant actually appealed to the board, and the successive board of the NBA said again, considering socioeconomics and our lucrative export to Europe of cut flowers, we rejected. So this tells you, Jeff, that tunachunga. Lakini chakula, mahindi, tunakula chakula, ugali kila wakati.
Every time, yes.
Sasa you want to make GMO.
Ile tushaangalia na tukaweka muhuri ya approval kwamba this is safe. I think the bench now is almost
smoking. I think Dr. Mugiira is still with us.
Oh, yes,
Dr.
yes.
Mugiira, are you still with us? If you can hear us, give us your final thoughts, sir. Dr. Mugiira, are you out there?
Oh, yeah. Jeff,
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm listening keenly.
Very good.
Jeff, you know, the problem when you are far away is that you would like to be, one would like your high to catch my high, but it's not easy where I am because I'm following the discussion very well.
Give your final comments.
My final words
Dr.
are this.
Yeah, Dr. Mugiira, give your final comments,
Yes,
please.
sir. My final comments are, look, look, there are academicians there. There are also policy makers in the public and private. And what I would say is very simple is that I think we need evidence of giving a policy direction to the government, a policy direction which is evidence-based. That's what I can say.
Absolutely. We're going to get some closing comments from all of you. Anne, starting with ladies first. You go first.
What I would say is that I call on our current government. It is not too late to put a precaution and let us bring back the ban. Because at the end of the day, it's very difficult to reverse back. When you introduce GMOs, going back is almost impossible because you're affecting even our biodiversity, and there will be a lot of loss of our indigenous species. Number two, I talked about simple solutions, which Dr. Mugiira agreed to. Improve on our extension, put more money into research. When research was being done with government money, we got Katumani maize in Ukambani without a lot of influence from people who are interested in the markets in Africa. Number two, or in Kenya. Number three, let us also diversify I talked about Kenya, always talking about maize, maize, maize. Diversification is also key, and let us support agroecological practices that promote different ways of producing food. You talked of organic, regenerative agriculture. A lot of this where people are appreciating growing food that you're sure will not affect you or future generations.
Absolutely.
It's not immediately you grow horns or you grow a leaf. No, it takes time. It keeps you softly.
Closing thoughts.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for this opportunity to be with you this evening. Let's remind each other that to reverse a process that has been started takes a bit of time. I remember we had to work so hard to remove a ban on our fish because of minimum residue levels, that the fish in Lake Victoria was contaminated because of the pesticides that we are applying on our crops in Trans Nzoia and other neighboring counties that went into the rivers, and the rivers took to the Lake Victoria. And it took a bit of time for us to reverse that, for us to get a market of export to EU. Now, what we need to do is to think clearly and not build pigeonholes that we are researchers, we are politicians, we are activists, and that's why at times when you say anti-GMO activist is a misnomer, because we are concerned Kenyans. We are not here because of the government of the day, whether we support it or not. We support a situation where food security in Kenya is really food security, not with biosafety problems.
Dr. Roy.
Thank you. You asked Jeff whether there is pressure on either side. I sit here. Actually, you would have got somebody else so that there will be two on this side, two on this side. Then I would be the one on the middle to regulate this guy and also to assure this other side. And I can say that one area that we need to do better is in communication, public awareness, and engagement. And I therefore invite, I do not know when Anne's organization organized a fora where people can come and then we can interact. I want to invite your participation in our upcoming 11th Biosafety Conference. We shall be making a formal invitation.
I invited you recently in Nairobi in May.
Oh yes, yes, I sent.
Civil Society Pan-African Eating GMOs.
Up that kidogo, peleka juu kidogo, ujumbe ufike. Because the ujumbe that you carry is the same ujumbe that I carry, our concerns on safety and assuring our people. So finally, there is a statement they make when the Air Force aircraft fly over during Madaraka Day and other celebrations, wanasema tuko imara angani kwa kuangalia usalama. I can tell you, Jeff, there is no other product that is as regulated as GM product. Tunaangalia pande ya chini, pande ingine, ile tumeweka muhuri na tunasema hiyo ni salama. Hakika.
Asante.
I could say Bwana asifiwe, Jeff.
Amen. Professor Duor, you get the last.
So if I brought ugali and said nimeangalia kweli and wezi
No, Prof.
Wezi kuza. Kwa hivyo huna imani na mimi. Na masomo yangu na
masomo yako shida ni moja kwamba katika Kenya kuna mvinyo ambayo si hairuhusiwi kuwa Kenya. Lakini kuna
uwezekano wa kuingiza
kwa hiyo mtu anaweza kupitisha panya route na inaingia Kenya.
Inaingia. Prof, you get the last word.
I want to tell the public that we should tone down the fears. We are scientists and we are not in any way intending to kill anyone with this technology. We have a regulatory agencies, we have researchers, we have the public. We want them to benefit from these technologies. And if it gets to the point that they feel that there is a socio-economic aspect that is not nicely addressed, we would want to also come in as scientists and address it with them. Because indeed this country belongs to all of us. The only excitement that we have, and personally I want to thank the President and the Cabinet for lifting this ban. Why? Because he is actually making very interesting and very positive moves. When you touch fertilizers, you are touching the seed, the soil. when you touch the seeds, and if he is also able to touch the value chain, look for the market so that even our small-scale farmers are able to benefit from these technologies and eventually negotiate at a platform with whatever international community or what international organization that is actually owning the technology. There is nothing wrong with the West or any other organization owning a technology. If the technology is good and it's helping the people, go to the table, negotiate for it, so that the country can still benefit. Let's not run away and demystify and demonize GMO just because we fear that it's Monsanto. What is Monsanto? The government just needs to sit to that, and it no longer exists, by the way. It is now Bayer, because it was bought off by Bayer. So if we really believe the technology is good, let's bring this Bayer to the table. Tell them we want this technology, but on the following terms. That is a different discussion, and that's what I'm saying. Let the public start engaging positively. We are not intending to kill anyone, and most importantly, I am very thankful to the president and the cabinet for lifting this ban. I am a happy man, and may we eat GMO.
And we are
And
sad.
that ugali, you will cook it.
Please challenge me on that. I will enjoy my GMO.
Why did Bayer
anytime.
buy Monsanto?
By
By
Monsanto.
Monsanto.
The name was so bad.
Yeah.
The US.
Now even buying
30,000.
Majas, the name cannot be the only one. No,
What an
Majas.
discussion.
Want to come back?
We have to come back.
Yes.
Professor, you have to come back.
Yes.
And we discuss this more. Because the public has to be informed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Some
that's
ugali. We come back
You agree?
Yeah,
And
yes.
you agree?
I'll be here.
I agree.
Come back
with some
Yeah.
ugali.
Dr. Moya as well.
with some
that day-
ugali.
Not from them.
Samogali.
Some
Not
ugali.
from them.
GMO ugali.
We'll come with mine, the
Yes.
indigenous, and
Yeah.
then you test, eh?
Yeah.
Tell us the difference.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll be the tester.
Yeah.
And next week,
Yes.
we have an indigenous seed festival at the National Museums of Kenya. You're welcome, 12, 13, 14th.
Okay.
Please come. Everyone will be there with their seed and their food.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, folks, for great conversation.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in, folks. I know there are a lot of comments, a lot of tweets, a lot of people asking the right questions. Keep asking. That's what it's all about, folks. Communication. Like Dr. Roy said, communication is key here.
Yeah.
Will GMO work? Is this what we need? Professor Roy said it's not the silver bullet, but it could help that food insecurity that Mugiira is always talking about, the food insecurity of this country. Think about it. Thanks so much for being a part of JKLive. Good night, good luck. God bless Kenya. Thank you.